We're back. We're back. Welcome back to Aaaim Alumni Leadership Podcast Series. And this is episode 2. And we're featuring the Triple A Awardees for 2025. This is CJ Sana from MBM 1988.
And Paolo Balinas from MBA 2014.
This episode offers a wealth of insights and experiences from our esteemed guests from the roster of the Triple A Awardees of 2025.
But Cease, before we move on, I'd like to remind everyone for you to catch us and follow us on Aaaim Alumni Leadership Podcast. You can find us in YouTube and Facebook.
Okay, let's get this show on the road. We're excited about this next guest. Just like we're excited Tip join us. This one is a balikbayan. He's joining us. He was our first supporter. He was our first guest in season 1.
Yes, and fun trivia, he was our most watched episode among our podcast guests. So we're very excited to have him back here in our podcast, episode 2 for season 2.
So let's do the formal introduction. Eugene S. Acevedo is a distinguished banking leader with 3 decades of experience in the financial industry, recognized for his transformative leadership in digital banking, financial inclusion, and sustainable finance. His banking journey took him from Citibank here and abroad, then to Philippine National Bank, and currently the president and CEO of Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, RCBC. He steered the bank towards unprecedented growth, making it the fastest growing privately owned bank in the Philippines. Mr. Acevedo's other side is that of a dedicated mentor and educator. He has served as vice chair of the Asian Institute of Management Board of Trustees. He's the author of 2 books. We have it here with us, right? And those 2 books are Never Stand Alone and the recently released Reinvent and Outperform, Becoming a Better Leader. Now, here's another side of Mr. Acevedo. He's also a top creator in LinkedIn and has been ranked number 1 for LinkedIn in the Philippines. Friends, let us welcome Mr. Eugene Acevedo, MBM 1987. Hello, Eugene.
Oh, thank you for
Nice to have
having me back.
Of course. And this is going to be fun. This is the demystification of Eugene Acevedo.
I've been looking forward to this. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Yes,
Wow.
and actually prior to this, I just remembered everything that we discussed, right? Like the being a triple threat, the importance of mentors. So we learned a lot in our first session. So for this session, I think what TJ mentioned is more of a demystifying, right?
Okay.
Getting to know you on a more personal level. So I'm quite excited for this episode.
All right. Let's start off with a question you had.
So congratulations again for your
Thank you
second
very
book.
much.
I think you did mention it during our first podcast. You were planning to launch it. And now, congratulations for officially launching it, right? So what motivated you maybe? Maybe you could share more to our audience what motivated you to write a second book right away.
Actually, it wasn't anything profound. It was really because when I was reading and writing my first book, the momentum was just so strong that I found it like not exactly addicting, but a cathartic process. And before I knew it, I was writing and writing and writing until I came up with enough material for a second book. Believe it or not, that was just happened. And I kept going until I had sufficient material for a third book, which I already submitted to my publisher a week ago.
Oh, we'll talk about the third book later.
Yes.
It seems like every time that we invite you for a podcast, it seems like you already have another book in store upcoming.
But that's going to be the last because I'm busy with my doctorate studies in AIM, and you can't mix both. It's something that we can talk about later as well.
This is 191 pages. So imagine how much brain cells were going after the first book.
Yeah.
It was about, this one is about 38,000 words, which took me 6 months to write. The next one was more disciplined, took me another 5 months or so to write, 56,000 words. Maybe let's not talk about the third
those
book
stats are
first.
interesting.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Paolo and I just got our book, this one. All right, so for those that have read Never Stand Alone, what's the difference about Reinvent and Outperform? What new insights can the reader expect?
When I started writing, that was around the time when I volunteered to mentor 10 individuals on LinkedIn. And I ended up with 25, which became 35, which became 41.
That's a lot.
And because of the one-on-ones I had with them, I started gathering the type of questions that young people needed help on. Things
Okay.
like what to wear, as basic as those, your first wardrobe. I mean, that's the part I actually, frankly, enjoyed writing. But things like, how can I find a mentor? The answer is the mentor finds you. How do I prepare if I want to be a CEO or senior officer? And the things that were more important, like I'm not happy at work.
Okay.
What do I do? I feel like I'm stuck. Should I resign? How come I don't feel engaged? Very basic things which were shared with me by top performing individuals. I realized that these were questions not raised by just one or two, but quite a number of young top performing people. So I decided to write about it in general terms, obviously, so that I do not reveal who said what. These posts ended up having hundreds, sometimes over 1,000 reactions. And that encouraged me to keep going. And beyond that, I would get letters from everywhere, including other countries, asking me certain questions which are similar to Dear Big Brother Eugene, something like that.
Good.
And I always replied. I always replied. Usually the letters would start with with a paragraph that would say, "Sir, I don't expect you to respond, but I will try anyway." And then after 20 minutes, there's a response. I do not respond only to those selling me the 3 Cs: condominiums, computers, and club shares.
Club shares, yeah.
But otherwise, I respond because I've found it initially started as something I enjoy doing, but at some point it became a sense of obligation. Since I went through similar things early in my life, and there was always somebody I could talk to, I think it's my obligation to at least give some guidance or alternatives to young people who may not have someone to talk to or seek advice from. That has become my last 14 months.
Okay. But something struck me. I am not happy in my job.
Hmm.
So what do you tell them? What's your advice to that?
I ask questions. I ask questions. The first question I ask, believe it or not, is, who do you have coffee with? It's very telling. It usually starts with the lack of social engagement in the workforce. If you don't have a friend in the office, you don't look forward going to the office. It may sound trivial, but it's an extremely basic thing. In fact, there's research, I think Gallup did this research. There's research behind all these things. And by the way, whenever I give advice or write about something, I tend to go back to research and check what research says about
Okay.
certain things. I try to avoid using my experience as my source of truth because my background is similar to the backgrounds of others. So I get into Google Scholar, find something, or get one material that I've read before, and I use it as a basis without sounding too academic.
Who do you have coffee with and friends in the office?
Yes.
How does that now marry with hybrid work from home?
Believe it or not, young people have figured out a way to socialize. But
Young people.
yeah,
Young and younger.
Yeah, young and younger.
But I would say in the work from home discussion, I have a specific position which is not extreme, but I like people coming to the office at least a few times a week or a month just to make sure they establish camaraderie with others. And young people coming into the workforce may not have the right kind of training for their jobs. I am concerned that they may not take it constructively. They may not see the value in that right from the start. And that's my only concern, frankly, about hybrid. Do they have the right training? Do they have the right mentoring? Are they able to establish organizational identity? Otherwise, it would be easy for them to move, which is also turnover. But it's a complicated issue, especially in the Philippines, where young people would tell me, "Sir, it's easy for you to say that because you have a driver, but we have to commute." And that has to be a primary consideration.
So Eugene, earlier you did share that one of the inspirations that motivate you to write the book was the mentorship session that you shared, right?
Yes, yes.
Amongst the, I think, first 10 and then 45, were there any challenges of these young individuals that quite surprised you?
Oh my God.
Nakapasabog.
One of the most glaring things is just because somebody is doing very well in the academics or even at work, it doesn't mean that that is really what the person wanted to do. It may be because it may have started with the parents cheering the person on, and then the person kept performing, summa cum laude, etc. And then people just assume. We should never assume, because one day the person will just knock on my door or call me and say, Eugene, I really need to talk to you. And they will say, I think I made a mistake. This is not the career that I wanted. Then I ask, but you're doing great, but it's not what I want. So I challenge it first, and then I ask, so what is it that you really want? And these are top performing individuals. They can do anything. You know, that has happened far too often. So I assume that just because somebody's doing well doesn't mean that that is what they actually want to do. So Steve Jobs is right.
Okay, wait. They don't, they're doing well, but that's not what they want. What did they want? Is it so far away from where they are now?
Oh,
Like, what is the most extreme
you don't
case?
even want to know. Because if I,
Okay.
the extreme case is something that's extremely quantitative to something that's extremely artistic.
As in becoming a hairdresser?
Not,
Or a
Maybe a
painter?
YouTube star, right? Or
but
A
I'll
blogger?
stop there, otherwise I'll reveal.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay. No, I'm just trying to understand that, like, that extremeness. So
But maybe building on the topic, right? You did share that you initially wanted 10 but ended up with a whole lot more. So it seems to be a very successful program that you ran. I'm quite interested in terms of what was the decision process in selecting the 40 plus,
Oh,
right?
okay.
the apostles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're from AIM and you happen to be from University of San Carlos, I'll say yes. And then Pao, I realized that there were too many AIM alumni. So I started making a distinction between those who grew up in the cities versus those who grew up in the province.
Okay, that's a
And I also gave some extra consideration to those who are establishing their own businesses. Because I figured if you went to AIM and before that you went to one of the top schools in the Philippines, you probably don't need me. You probably have access to other mentors and you're well set up. I think my time is better spent with those who, for example, whose parents did not go to college, and I have a handful of them, because they're the ones who do not have the kind of mentoring or insider knowledge or even the network available to them. And according to research, there's a significant difference between incomes of first-generation college graduates and second-generation college graduates. It's a big source of social inequity in this country. You start looking at, I encourage listeners to look at their own companies and start comparing first generation and second generation. And you'll realize that that is a big issue in our country.
Are you gonna take a number? You're gonna apply also?
Yeah, so that my next question is there a batch 2?
No, it's only if you're first generation. Are you?
First generation, we don't have a family business, so I would assume
No,
first.
if your parents graduated from college, then you're disqualified.
Okay. So no,
okay,
I'm not first
Okay,
generation.
Okay.
you're out. Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Now-
out.
Okay, that's one of your spheres of influence. The other one that's been emerging is LinkedIn. You are top creator in the Philippines, one time number one, but top 30. So why
Oh.
what's now the reason for being active on LinkedIn?
When I started writing, I would post it on LinkedIn, and then I just said by the time I turn 60, maybe it would be nice to have 1,000 followers. It was just for kicks, and then it just kept adding and adding until now it's 42,000. Really, to me, it's an opportunity to help build the brand of my bank, to reach out to customers, because honestly, I used LinkedIn before to connect to my customers.
Okay.
LinkedIn is a business social media platform that allows me to reach institutional or corporate customers. And then I realized that it was also a great opportunity to invite talent to join my institution.
Okay.
They figured that if they read what the CEO is writing, and they say, oh, I may like working for this guy, So I actually get a number of applicants almost every day.
On your
So I'm like part of human resources. And the third is it's a nice release. I have friends from all over now. I've made a lot more friends because of LinkedIn. And I've used LinkedIn as an opportunity or a platform to help communicate about my advocacy on first generation, on sustainability, things that I feel strongly about. I'm using LinkedIn to talk about it. I'm also using LinkedIn to advertise AIM's DBA program. So I'm
Okay.
unofficially the chief marketing officer, unpaid,
For the
appointed
love.
by Jikyong. Yes.
Have people expressed interest or registered for DBA?
It looks like, yes, because I go around, I talk about my experiences in the DBA program. I had a great time so far.
Yeah, since we're on the topic of social media, right? So you did share a lot of benefits like recruiting more talent, hiring better people. I'd like to look at the other side of the coin. Were there any instances wherein you posted about something that is quite controversial,
Oh,
that hit a few people?
Did
That,
you get bashed?
Yeah, did you get bashed, basically?
Did you get bashed?
I am a banker. Bankers avoid controversial topics. It's been a discipline of mine. Even on Facebook, I'm not active on Facebook anymore, but I avoid those topics, which I will not mention because the mere mention of those topics will get me bashed. I just avoid them. I keep my opinions on those topics to myself.
Avoidance is the best. So you don't invite unwanted attention. So where do you find time to post on LinkedIn, given you're a very busy man, and post on social media, on Facebook?
I don't play golf. So that's the quick answer. And I don't drive. I have a driver. So in that, thanks to Manila traffic, I have time to write.
Easily 3 hours.
No, but usually what happens is I think about something, then I get to my phone and I type in the topic.
Okay.
So I have a list of 20 topics that I haven't written about. During the weekend, I start writing about it and I reserve certain topics for Wednesday because Wednesday is
Why Wednesday?
Wednesday is the hottest. Wednesday around midday is the hottest time to post anything
Hump
on
day.
LinkedIn. Yes. That's when there's more people checking the platform.
So you look at the analytics.
Yes, I'm a quantitative guy.
Yes.
So I look at the analytics of LinkedIn. So for example, I know that I've reached about 700,000 individuals so far reading all my posts. It's all there. It's all there on LinkedIn. And it's quite an interesting platform.
I can imagine. So now when you walk around Greenbelt, do people ask for your picture?
Well, I don't go to the malls nowadays because I'm busy writing my dissertation.
Oh,
But when I'm in the airport lounge,
right.
when I'm on the plane,
Right.
people come to me and say, "Are you Eugene or are you from RCBC?" Then they say, "Oh, I follow you on LinkedIn." It happens quite frequently. That is why I think whenever I go out, I have to dress properly or behave well because then they'll say, "Hey, that's the
true.
guy."
That's true. There's an image to protect already.
No, but I still wear shorts during the weekend.
That's your downtime.
Yeah, I'm quite interested as well because yesterday I attended this AI day, right? And I've seen AI increase the productivity of a lot of content creators. Just want to hear your thoughts, right? What's your thoughts on AI with content creation? Have you been leveraging on this?
I don't like the way AI writes. LinkedIn used to have an AI editor and they would volunteer to edit. I always did not like how it came out. So what I do now is I sometimes use it to edit, to look for grammatical errors, but it's important that my style of writing comes out because I write the way I speak. And the minute it changes, my readers would see the difference. I have quite a number of readers. They tell me, and I hope this doesn't sound corny, but what they say is they look at my posts as their daily bread. I'm like, oh. And then last night, as I was coming out of AIM, there was this lady in the corner who said, "Sir, I read your posts every day. I'm like, oh, so now I feel obligated to make sure that I post all the time. So I try to do my best, but it has to be me.
That's
It has to sound like
That's
me.
true.
I know that there are people who do work for others, doing their material, ghostwriters basically. No, it's not me.
It has to come from the heart.
I believe that anytime I write, I should try to be doing three things at the same time. I have to educate, persuade, but at the same time entertain. Because if it's not entertaining, I will just lose the audience. It's you cannot be too objective and formal sounding, for example, because then you just lose your audience. I think it's important to make sure that apart from them understanding, at least they have some entertainment for at least 5 minutes.
True. To get them over the hump day.
Yeah, it's something can be written in a way, changing words, things I learned from Father Donelan, for example, how
Oh,
to write.
yes.
Write it differently so that you can still be clear and concise, but at least they smile when they read it.
Okay, let's bring it to your AAA award.
Mm.
All right. I noticed that you dedicated your AAA award to the late Javier Nepomuceno, former Ayala Corp treasurer, who you fondly called Tito Hav. When you first met him 40 years ago and your subsequent interactions with him, what were the key lessons you got from him?
I met the nephews, the real nephews of Mr. Nepomuceno, and they corrected me and they said they actually called him Tito Jave, but
Tito Jave, okay.
the Have actually came from the Ayala brothers, who
Ah,
also
okay.
treated them as their Tito. He's a small guy, humble, and in fact, he was embarrassed that I reached out to him. What happened was I called the investor relations office of Ayala Corp, and they told me, oh, he's coming on this day. So that's when I went. He was embarrassed that I went over to thank him. But we ended up having a long discussion about how he worked on donating the land by Ayala Corp for AIM. And as a result of that effort, he thought, why don't I set up a scholarship as well? And I was one of I'm looking for a word I became like an honorary nephew
Ah, okay.
as a result of the process. And now I've actually established a relationship with the real blood nephews and nieces of Mr. Nepomuceno. The last letter I wrote him was when I was promoted to vice president. I was so proud to share it with him. And I still remember his address. It's been tattooed in my head.
But was there anything that he told you that really hit you in the heart?
He said, no, it was more his manner of speaking, soft-spoken for a guy who topped the CPA exam and who also became a lawyer. I found out later that he was with the guerrilla and actually did the death march. For all his accomplishments, he was very understated. I think that was the most important lesson.
The learning of humility and understatement.
Yes, yes. And of course, his generous heart, because I was not the only scholar. AIM was not the only school he gave or established scholarships. He also did quite a lot with LaSalle. In fact, I think his scholarship program in LaSalle is still ongoing.
So that inspired you in the pay it forward mode that you have?
Partially, but it was also inspired by my grandfathers who were very much into education.
Okay. Now, let's take the social part and the personal part. You do not play golf. So what do you do in your off hours?
I work on my dissertation.
Wait, that was
Can
like
I
more
answer
something.
it's at home.
Something
Okay.
early.
Okay. We have 9 cats at home.
Okay. Well, talk about that one.
We separate them because they always fight. My
Okay.
favorite cat is Georgia,
Okay.
the only girl cat in the family. She's difficult to please, but I have to woo her. And she's like my stress reliever, apart from, again, the dissertation. I have stopped reading books because the reading load of the DBA program is quite heavy. I don't eat out as much as I used to. The joke I say is, before I would go to buffet and right after visit the dessert station.
Yeah.
Now it's eat quickly and do my dissertation. Sorry,
Some different
probably
kind of
didn't
dessert
sound
there.
right. And I'm really a homebody. I'm not much of a socializing guy.
The introvert in you.
Yeah, and then of course, every now and then I go to Fully Book to check whether my books are selling.
Attention, Jaime.
Actually, about that, I always visit Fully Booked BGC and I always see you at one of the top selling
Yeah,
books.
except that I'm not there anymore because they ran out of copies.
Yeah, this one I got from I got this
We
one from
delivered 60
Fully Booked
to
Retail.
National Bookstore recently. In fact, a month ago, I went and asked whether there were copies left of the book. And then the guys checked the
Checking,
computer, and then they realized I was the author. And we had a selfie afterwards.
Okay, let's bring it back to the cats. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
You're a cat person. What attracts you to the cats? Because they're dog persons and cat persons.
I
What-
used to, believe it or not, my wife loves cats.
Okay.
Grew up with cats. So whenever I'd be driving before and there would be cats on the road, I would pretend like I'm going to run them over. But of course I don't. And then my son rescued one and then rescued another until I learned to love them. They are low maintenance. They know how to take care of themselves.
Okay.
And to get close to them, you have to make a real effort. A real effort. It's like wooing someone. And once you get them to your side, they spend time with you. Our cats are actually sweet, believe it or not. There are sweet cats. They're affectionate, but and they would sleep with me sometimes. But the good part about cats is I don't have to walk them every morning.
Because they can take care of themselves.
They can take care of themselves.
Yeah. So earlier, Eugene, you shared that you're currently taking your DBA, right? So maybe you could share as well to our audience the difference that you've seen take graduating MBA and DBA. Maybe you could share a little bit about your DBA experience.
Yeah, one of the first realizations when I started doing DBA readings and the lessons was I did not know enough. There were just so many things I thought I knew, but I did not.
Okay.
In business, there's a tendency to say, okay, based on our experience, based on the information we have, we make a decision. What I realized was there were people who really studied all these things in the past. Now, so much so that my favorite topic now is psychology. So I'm like, maybe I should have taken my undergrad in psychology because people are just so complicated in a way that makes them more interesting. So far, I've studied, I think, at least 20, 25 frameworks about behavior at work. And it's quite interesting how people behave. It's not simply a matter of commitment or motivation or a sense of well-being. It's more complicated than that. It is contextual. It's I'll just end up by saying people are complex and people are worth studying more about. Technology, my topic is digital transformation.
Right.
But the more I thought about it, the more I was convinced that people and culture are really the main differentiators of the process. When you ignore people, you will fail. So you have to study the most important resource that you have, and these are people.
That's a good reminder, especially AI is coming in and people are scared of it. So what are your thoughts on AI and people management?
Oh, I've made up my mind about that a long time ago.
Okay.
The first 7 years ago, I said RCBC has to invest in data science and AI. And we did that 7 years ago. The idea being that while AI can do or substitute people for simple tasks, AI's real value is in augmenting people's skills and in the process make them much more productive. So for example, an account officer or relationship manager uses AI for composition proposals. But there are other things like if you want to know more about the industry of the company, AI can make you an expert in a few minutes. But what is more important is AI is able to go through the bank's data and personalize offerings for our customers. We have what we call, for example, propensity programs. Propensity programs are machine learning programs that identify which customers are highly likely to buy certain products. That way, we don't call just anyone. We call only those who are highly likely to need or be interested. So then we don't pester our customers with spam. We use AI to do our best to give content that's relevant or give offers that are relevant to our customers rather than just doing shotgun.
Right.
AI is doing that. And AI is one of the best ways to go through thousands of research papers and find research papers that are more relevant to my topic. So I use AI actively in the doctorate program.
So it helps you focus.
It prioritizes, it focuses, and you spend less time on things that are manual.
Okay.
You spend less time on things that you don't enjoy doing. Like, for example, you have 30 books to read, but there's 1 or 2 books that you really, really want to spend time on. For all the rest, run a summary, then you know what it is about. What AI does, in fact, is enable you to spend time on the things that you really enjoy spending your time on.
That's the
To me,
prep.
that's the summary.
Right.
AI makes your life more fulfilling because you're able to really do things that you enjoy doing and give the rest to a machine to run.
But not only did you demystify Eugene, we also tried demystifying AI. That's going to be very helpful for our audience. Let's wind down with our last 3 questions.
Yeah, so I think we're down to our last few questions. So maybe a good last few would be looking back and looking forward,
Okay.
right? So in 2024, is there a particular thing that you're grateful for?
Oh, 2024, I published 2 books and I finished writing the 3rd one. I never thought I'd be an author, frankly. So that's like check mark. But 2024 taught me something which I thought I knew, but turned out did not know much about as much as I should. And it's intellectual humility. Getting into the DBA program basically made me realize how much more I needed to know. And I think that lesson is something I can take with me for the next, I don't know, 10, 15 years of my productive life.
Okay. Looking forward, what are you hopeful for in 2025?
In 2025, I'd like to spend more time on my advocacies, including mentoring first generation college graduates. I've already started the program in RCBC. I announced in the bank that moving forward, I will accept only first generation college graduates because all the others, they can go to their group heads. So if somebody from a top high school in Manila who went to a top university and is thinking about going to a top grad school in the US or wherever and needs my help because they're confused, I'm going to say somebody else can help you, you're fine. I spent time with graduates from the lesser schools. We have quite a number of those. Just last week, we hired a daughter for an officer position, daughter of a driver, daughter of a carpenter. I need to take care of them because who else will? I'm also more active with the Philippine Society for Talent Development. They always invite me. And in the mentorship summit, I shared that with them and convinced them that it's not just about mentoring, it's also about mentoring who among the population we should be focusing on.
I want to take that point on this age group.
Mm.
The Gen Zs and the younger millennials, what have you noticed are their key traits and also their key weaknesses?
Oh, you know what? I avoid that topic
Okay.
because
It's a controversial topic,
controversial.
Siege.
And second, PJ,
Yes.
when we were young, we were also criticized for certain things. So every generation gets criticized. But one thing I like about the young
Okay.
generation
Let's have something.
is the sense of competition. They work together.
Okay.
They share notes with each other. They want everybody to move up. I haven't seen this much collaboration until I saw how young people work together.
The word is
Competition and collaboration.
competition.
To me, it's inspiring to see that it's no longer cutthroat. It's more us moving up together. Every time I see it, I get inspired and I wished we had more of that when I was younger.
Okay. And our last question.
Yeah, so Eugene, you've been very successful throughout your entire career, right? And adding the Triple A award to yet another award that you've received, right? Maybe the last question would be, what's next? What's the next goal that you'd want to achieve?
What's on your bucket list?
The next set of things in my bucket list is bakit, the Tagalog word for why.
Okay.
It's just so many things I want to learn more, like why our first generation college graduates put in a position of disadvantage. Why is the Philippines consuming so much single-use plastics? Why, and by the way, in AIM, we don't use plastics anymore. Why is it that we are still using a lot of coal when we should be switching to renewable energy? It's not enough to think about advocacies and saying we should be doing these things. It's important to study them so that we understand the motivation and probably be in a better position to figure out what the solutions are. So to me, it's why?
Bakit?
Bucket. Why?
Bucket is bucket.
Your big questions will really take a lot of time. And
Yes.
there's a lot of things to do. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Eugene Acevedo, MBM
Thank you
1987,
very much.
Triple A Awardee 2025. Thank you for joining us in the AIM Alumni Leadership Podcast Series, Season 2, Episode 2. And thank you again, Eugene. We'll see you around.
Thank you so much.
This
Thank
is
you,
CJ
gentlemen.
Sena, MBM 1988.
And Paolo Balinas, MBA 2014.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Good day, everyone.